we're back for another casual conversation with the classic, the first one in a while. I got a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Frank the Clown. How are you doing? This is going to be a fun conversation because I'm sure there's a lot that people want to get to know about you. Because I'll say this, like we talk, you're on social media. I've read the comment section. People want to know things about you. Yeah. You don't always give them the answers.
No, I don't. I'm a man of mystery. So to speak. I like to sometimes keep it that way. But for you, my friend, I'm an open book today. So, we'll rock and roll.
We're going to get some of these answers. Obviously, for those of you who don't know who Frank is, Frank the Clown, he is a WWE Network star. He was on Holy Foley. And many of you might know, he's Noelle Foley's boyfriend. He's also wrestled on the independent scene. He's wrestled at Warrior Wrestling, among other independent places, and also managed in one of the more natural heels because he's just so dislikable. And you've seen him front row. You've seen him on many wrestling events as one of the WWE Superfans. And, there's a handful of them. And Frank the Clown got himself over in just that way, being Frank the Clown. He's the guy that dressed up as a clown in front in a lot of wrestling events. And we'll talk about that because I want to know about all of that. I want to know about the entire journey. But how are you doing?
Yeah.
How's quarantine been treating you?
Well, as we could see, quarantine has not been treating me very well. I have looked better in my days. I'm going for like the Dick Dastardly twirly stash here. And if I constantly play with my beard, it's because I could tell it looks uneven when I'm looking at myself. So all this entire interview, I'm just going to be stroking my beard. And
it is really weird with this platform because everything is like inverted.
I keep grabbing for this side. I want this side, but I keep grabbing for this side, and it's throwing me off. So I keep doing the wrong thing. So
if you've ever watched any of the previous interviews I've ever done, like the Casual Conversations or NFG Radio with Chad Gaspard, you'll see me like if I'm ever wearing a hat or a toque, like I'm always trying to fix it because it looks crooked, even though it's not.
Right.
It's just that everything's inverted. I'm like, why does this look sideways? Like, even right now, I feel like this is a little.
I can't stop looking at this part of my beard right here. There's nothing I can do about it. So we're just gonna let it be.
So how have you been? Like, how's it been not being able to attend wrestling events, not being to participate in wrestling events?
It is what it is, right? We play the hands we're dealt. So, I've been bored to an extent. Honestly, I'm not much of a goer-outer. So like being stripped of like having to go places didn't quite affect me too much. Obviously, like I like going out to eat and all that, but I'm not like a drinker or anything. I don't go out to bars and all that. So it just, if anything, it's taken away some of me being able to sit down in a restaurant or travel. I'm a traveling man, so it's taken that away from me, which is probably the biggest thing. So normally I'm not hunkered down in one place for too long. I'll travel somewhere, Florida, California, wherever. So this is like the longest extended time I've been at home in a while. Like I went on a cruise and Disney stuff back near the end of February. So it was right before things started getting weird. And then the following weekend was AEW Revolution here in Chicago, and I did C2E2. And literally that next week I had a booking of Freelance Wrestling here in Chicago. And then literally days later, that's where everything just like totally like got weird. And that was it. And I've been hunkered down since then. So I really have left my house. Like I can count maybe on like less than two hands, like maybe one hand. And really it was just like to go to the post office or stop at a store, pick up a couple things. And other than that, I've been like, I'm not super paranoid about everything, but I guess I am because my actions say otherwise. But I really haven't done anything.
Honestly, it's really relatable because like I'm quite the homebody too. I'm not. Are you straight edge?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, so you're straight. I'm not straight edge or anything. Yeah. I'm just like I am a homebody. I like to stay home and stuff. But I did like the casual, going to a restaurant, having a beer and dinner with a buddy or a friend or a girl or something, and just hanging out.
Social situations.
Going to the grocery store, like at first it was really hard because I like the little outings, like going to the grocery store. Like even before this, how I like went and got a coffee just to kill some time to make sure I went out of my house. Like did the beach cruise. Like I was so used to that stuff. And then I realized like as much as a homebody as I am, I do like that random social interaction of just getting being out in the public. And also the same thing, like I was telling you off the air, like I just was in California February 15th to the 27th. I came home and like March 1st, Tom Hanks got coronavirus and the NBA and the NFL shut down. I'm like, oh, I got really lucky. And I missed that part of it. I missed the traveling. I missed just going places and seeing people. I got really nostalgic a few days ago on the Wrestling Classic, and in my story I was posting a bunch of old pictures and stuff from previous trips. That part has been a bummer. But let's talk about you in wrestling. Yeah. When did you first start watching wrestling? What's your first wrestling memory?
Yeah.
What made you a fan?
So I'm 20. I'll be 30 this year, and I really started watching in '96. My earliest memory was the Bash, or not the Bash of the Beach, the Spring Break Monday Nitro back in '96, where the NWO had just formed. It might have been the night after they formed. And when they were tossing Rey Mysterio into the trailers and spray painting the trailers, I remember just flipping through the channels with like my dad and like watching and like, oh, what's that? And I had no idea, and I had no introduction to wrestling prior. And that's my earliest memory that I could trace it back to. And I was very strictly a WCW kid from like 96 to 2001. I barely watched WWF at all. And, you know, a lot of people are flipping back and forth. I was like WCW and that's it. I went to a couple like Raws when I was a kid, but I wasn't like so much into it. But I went to more Nitros when they came to Chicago, and they came pretty often. And from that point on, literally until WCW got bought out, the first WWF pay-per-view I ever ordered was WrestleMania 17 because that was the following week that WCW. So like it just smoothly went right into it. So from that point on, I watched consistently, obviously, for till this day. And but man, rest in peace, WCW. Like I was just watching stuff literally 2 days ago. I was watching watch Goldberg and Hogan. I watched stuff with Rodman. Just random things I put on because that was my heyday, man. Like I remember all that stuff vividly.
I always say to people, I'm like, unless you were alive when WCW was on TV, you can't shit on WCW for the propaganda that's given to us from the WWE. Because if you were alive for it, like it was cool, man. Even when it was really crappy in the late 2000s stuff, it was still like this alternative
stuff. Like it was so hokey, and looking back on it, I'm like, this is hilarious. Like the Demon debuting, how ridiculous it was, and like, but I remember watching and I was like into it, and like there's just so many random things. Like they had Chucky. I remember being at a Nitro where like they were doing the Chucky and Rick Steiner storyline, and I was in Chicago and they had like Chucky come up the Titantron. I'm like, what's going on? Like this is incredible. Like this is so silly.
I genuinely don't remember anything from the late 2000 after the $1 Million Club and the New Blood storyline.
Yeah.
To 2001, but like, even that, like I enjoyed that. I still remember that Thunder. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I was watching that Thunder with that really big battle royal that was all over the place, and Savage came out, and it was just like all of that was so cool to me. And I always like, and I think WCW sometimes gets a really bad rep nowadays because it's a WWF pop kind of like, oh, you know, they were bad, they had bad creative control, the management was bad. And I'm like, yeah, but if you were alive, WWF will never give as much credit to WCW as they do with ECW and other stuff. And like WCW was fun when you were a kid. And I don't know if it was the same for you. I know, like I grew up on both. I had an older brother who's 10 years older than me. He was born in 1981. He was a Hulkamaniac, Savage, and all those guys. So I grew up on a bunch of tapes and magazines and TNT's Saturday Night Main Events and Primetime Wrestlings and a bunch of Raws from whatever. But 1996 is the first year I genuinely remember like watching wrestling on TV, like catching Raw on TV, catching Nitro on TV. Purple Glove, Undertaker, and Mankind on the one show, Hogan, Savage guys on the other, and obviously my whole family was well aware of Hogan, Savage, and those characters
because it was getting hot right at that time. Like in 97, 98 were really like 97 to 99 were the really hot years. But 96 like the introduction when you saw things like simmering, and then
100%. So, but what I was gonna bring up was for me, because I think we're only like a year apart now in age after talking, but for me, it was a lot easier for me to be allowed to watch WCW over WWF in 98, 99 because they were a lot like 96, 97. I was allowed to watch both, no problem. By 98, 99, I found myself sneaking around to watch the WWE.
Right, when like Sable comes out.
And the Godfather and Val Venus, and they got raunchy and sexual chocolate and all this stuff. So I actually wasn't allowed to watch WWF, and I had to sneak around to watch it. So now when I go back to the network and I watch stuff from 98, 99, I'm like, oh, I've seen this episode of Raw. I've never seen this episode of Raw. I remember this moment, but I don't remember the rest of the episode. Where with WCW, like I can watch a Nitro start to finish. I'm like, I remember all of this. Was it the same for you? Like, were you not allowed to watch WWF?
No, all I really knew was WCW. Like I knew WWF was there, but I just wasn't interested in it. Like WCW had me like captivated. There was enough for me there. Like I love the NWO. Like I wasn't like the traditional like 6, 7, 8-year-old that was like cheering all the baby faces and booing the heels. I liked how cool the NWO was. Like I was Hogan for Halloween when I was like 7. I had the Hollywood Hogan bandana, the shirt, I had all that. And
I think, I don't mean to cut you up, but I think the first time we probably met might have been in New Orleans. And I'm pretty sure you were wearing the Hollywood Hogan with the cutoff sleeves
at
that day.
Cheap Heat podcast.
Yeah, I think so. That was the first time I met you, and you were wearing. You did.
I've never worn a bandana in my life before that, but I was like, I'm gonna wear this because why not? And I remember like everyone's like, "What are you part of like the Bloods? What's going on here?" Perhaps I am.
Yeah, no, I actually remember that was the first time we actually met.
Yeah.
And you were wearing the Hollywood Hogan shirt. Yeah.
Yep.
Go on, sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just was like loyal to WCW, and I just to the bitter end, like loyal to a fault. And there's just so many like I just can vividly remember so many random things on WCW, like dates and certain shows and this and that. And again, I was aware of what WWF and what was going on to an extent, but really I was just like WCW, like, you know, to the bitter end, like just my blood was pumping WCW.
No, that's fair, man. And I was a huge WCW fan as well. Like, not to be redundant, but I'm telling you, if you weren't alive then and you don't like WCW because all the bad things you heard, you don't know how cool WCW was in its time.
And honestly, a lot of the stuff in the Attitude Era with Raw was bad.
It was.
They tell you how great it was because there were parts that were great, but a lot of it was really, really bad. Especially looking back on it now, like their mid card was pretty bad. They weren't they were just humiliating the women for the most part. Even like the tag team division started really heating up around like I guess like WrestleMania 2000, WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
Like even then, like they weren't treating it with a lot of importance. And it's just there was a lot of silly storylines. Like there was a lot of ridiculous stuff that happened. And WCW obviously had its fair share of ridiculousness. But WWF, if you watch now, like you watch like, you know, the Monday Night Wars or whatever it is, they're like they act like everything they put out on the table was gold.
Yeah, really, people just weren't liking it.
No, yeah.
And it's so true because like, and don't worry, WCW got like wacky and weird mid 2000 to 2001.
Yeah.
But like, if you go back and you watch WCW in its prime, 96, 97, 99, 98, like, yo, they kicked the show off with some cruiserweights. And then they had like they always had such a tremendous mid card. Like,
they spaced the shows out very well. Like they gave everybody proper time. There was a ton of NWO on the shows, but there was enough other stuff to sink your teeth into.
Well, they had such a perfect level of talented guys that could go, and then larger than life superstars that might not be able to go as they could have in their prime, but they were such big characters and superstars people want to see them.
Piper. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Piper, Hogan, like Macho Man 97 is my favorite of all time, but Macho Man in 1998 has nothing on Macho Man in 1988. But I still looked forward to see him and hear him talk because he was such a larger than life character.
Yep.
And I think the thing that WCW did really well is they had a little bit of everything, and of course, there was some issues there where guys were never going to make it to the top when those guys were there.
Right. But it was a real thing. There was that you weren't breaking. It wasn't a glass ceiling. It was like
but you could watch a Nitro and you could see Benoit, Jericho, Kevin Sullivan, Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Macho Man, Diamond Dallas Page, Sting, Lex Luger, all on the same show.
Name a few, yeah.
And you're like, and that's when me naming a bunch that came off the top of my head. Like, all on the same show. And then when you think back and you think of all those guys, and you're like, oh, those guys are all legends. And you're like, wow, and they were all on the same show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy how much depth they had in their roster.
Yep.
So you started watching WWF in 2001. Is there or has there ever been a point where you like fell out of wrestling for a bit?
Right now, maybe. No. Honestly, no. I watched every week from that point forward. I mean, there was never a long gap. It was very rare I would miss a Monday Night Raw live, for that matter. I really, really was like, I know people were like had those gaps, like they faded out for a couple years, and something specific brought them back. No, man, I've been in it since 1996.
Like, I can kind of, because I always say there's a bit where I fell out, but at the same time, like I still watched Raw every Monday. Religiously, because that's just what I did. I just didn't watch SmackDown and the pay-per-views all the time. Yeah. And I watched Impact a lot during those years because I was an Impact fan. Yeah, that was like 2007 to 2011 is when I say I fell out. And then for me, I always say it was the pipe bomb that really made me a WWE fan again, because I was like, oh, that seemed real. Yeah. But so you just went straight forward from 2001 forward. Was there anyone when you tuned into WWF? So you've been a WCW fan. You were big on Hogan and the NWO and all of that. When you tuned into WWF, was there someone specifically when you saw them, you're like, oh, that's my guy?
You know what? That's a great question, actually. You know, I was always enamored with Taker, obviously, as a character. I didn't particularly care for Triple H, I remember. I liked Austin, but even like 2001, Austin was like, it was winding down to a degree.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, The Rock. And I always liked Shawn, but Shawn was already gone by that time too. So Yeah, I would say Taker's the first one that jumped out at me. That was like, oh, like I knew the Undertaker. Like I saw him. It wasn't like he was like this brand new character to me. But now to be able to see him every single week and like really appreciate him, that was super cool. But I would say, yeah, Taker and Austin were the two main guys for me.
So at any point in the beginning of this fandom towards wrestling, did you consider wrestling or pursuing wrestling?
It's always been in the back of my mind. I never thought I would be a wrestler, right? Because like I'm 5'9", 150 pounds soaking wet. So like I never envisioned myself of being like a big superstar wrestler. But it's one of those things where I always felt I could contribute to the wrestling business in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be like as a manager or mouthpiece for someone, something along those lines. So I never necessarily had aspirations to be a wrestler. Obviously, when you watch wrestling as a kid, you're like, oh, I want to be in WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That. But it was never something where I was like, I'm gunning for this. Like, I'm gonna settle at nothing. But like, it was more something in the last couple, like 5 years or so where I was like, I think there's something there. But
so what did you want to do when you grew up? Like what was Frank the Clown's aspirations when you
I wanted to be a movie star.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you still want to do something with entertainment. There's an entertainment thing in your
in front of a camera in some way, shape, or form. Because I knew I was pretty charismatic. I knew I could talk. I was comfortable in front of big audiences. I was comfortable in front of a camera. I was a theater major in college. In high school, I was like, I don't know, sound like egotistical, but like I was always like the guy, like like the life of the party, but I wasn't a drinker or anything. So like I was able to like be myself and have fun and like have people like draw themselves to me. And kind of like I like to hold court. Like you put me in a situation, I'll wind up holding court at some point and like, speaking to the group. So I always had those aspirations. And like I had a cup of tea. I went to California and did some stuff. Like when I was fresh out of high school, before college, I went to acting school and stuff like that. And like I always admired Conan O'Brien. I used to watch Conan O'Brien religiously.
The man, dude.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. I used to watch him religiously, not so much anymore, but religiously throughout like middle school and high school. And I was like, man, I would love to be a talk show host.
Yeah.
I think I could be really good at that. So that was always in the back of my mind. But yeah, that was kind of like coming out of like, as I was growing up and like coming into my own, that was kind of the path I wanted to take, which is like probably the most difficult path arguably in the world.
Yeah.
Be a movie star. But I have always believed in myself to a fault. And
which is necessary.
Right,
like
100%.
That's a really big deal for like you, even at your lowest of lows, when you get over your little slump, like you need to be back being like, nah, if I'm gonna bet on anyone, I'm gonna bet on myself.
Right, and if you don't think you're the best at something, then why? Or you don't think you can be the best, and why even do it? Like if you don't believe it, like, and that's always what's gotten me by. And I feel like I've been pretty successful in a lot of things I've walked into. And I attribute a lot of it to having confidence, and some people can make a mistake as arrogance, but to me, it's just like if I believe I'm really good at something, I'm gonna show you rather than tell you. I'm gonna make you believe it, and I've always been that way.
No, and that's probably why you are where you're at today, because I think your life, the series of events that took place, led you to a place where now you're doing this thing. You do it at wrestling events. You're okay in front of a crowd. You know how to talk in front of a crowd. You're not nervous. You get that whole theater aspect of it. I always say it's so funny because I love doing this, because when I hear people's stories, and I'm not going to go through it yet, but by the end of this, I'll break down how it got there, and they'll be like, yeah, that does make sense. Like that linkage makes sense. Yeah, like the timeline makes sense. Yeah. Like I must have had to go through that to go through this to get to there, and that did work out that way. Like, oh yeah, and I'm like, yeah, because that's people don't realize like even the crappiest things you might have went through 5 years ago that you might have got fired for something, you didn't get a gig or something.
Yeah,
the fact that you didn't or that didn't happen led you to where you are now, and like, yo, like, aren't you happy where you're at now? And if you're not, like, you're gonna get somewhere you're gonna be happy. But I think it's so cool because putting two and two together, hearing that you had aspirations to be an actor, you have a theater background, you went to acting school and stuff, and now you're doing stuff in wrestling, and you still found a way to always stay relevant. And like you said, when you went to a party, you found a way to be the center of the party, and you started showing up at WWE shows, and you found a way to be in the front row, dressed like a clown, getting people's attention. So let's talk about that. When did you start like actively? And I'm sure you went to a ton of shows as a kid. As you mentioned, you went to a few. But when did you start actively showing up to shows more often and making it a thing? Like, how did that all come about?
So, I mean, I was going pretty often, like, for Midwest shows, especially, like, I'd always hit Chicago here. It's right by me, obviously. And then, like, any Midwest stuff. But really, the clown stuff started in 2008, which is absurd thinking about it because it's 2020. And that's when I really started going hard, because now I had a reason to, right? Because I was in, like, there was the show, but then there was me dressing like this, like an asshole, and getting these interactions and meeting all these people and like creating friends. And now it was like driving me to go more and more. So 2008 was May of 2008 when the first time I dressed as Frank the Clown. And literally the rest is history there.
What was the idea behind it? Like, why clown?
Right.
Why do you even want to dress up? Like, did you have a goal in mind?
It was not my idea. So it was one of my best friends from high school, Dubs, and his name's Dubs. And we just were spitballing ideas back and forth where we're like, we want to do something that stands out. We want to go to these shows, we want to stand out in some way, shape, or form. We didn't know why we wanted to stand out, but we just wanted to stand out. And I remember like leading into WrestleMania 24 in Orlando, we went to that, and I kept like texting. This was right around the time Chris Jericho came back. And he had like those vignettes of like the code and stuff. And I would text him like this ridiculous, like, jumbled letters and stuff. And in the middle, I would put something with orange or like Naranja in Spanish. And I was going to debut as the Orange Man at WrestleMania 24. I had this ridiculous orange shirt, like bright orange. Terrible idea.
Was this around the time? I don't mean to cut you off, but was this around the time where a lot of people were getting like kind of popular in sports by wearing like the Green Man suits and stuff?
So the Green Men stuff, I think, came a little bit later, because I remember the Green Men were. I'm a Blackhawks fan, and they had a lot of playoff series with the Canucks, and the Green Men are from
Vancouver.
The Canucks, of course.
That's right. Yeah.
They used to always beat the Canucks, and like the Green Men, I remember like when they would go into the penalty box and they'd be doing it. I'm like, that's awesome. So that came out a little bit after, but not too long after, because the Hawks' big run started in 2010, and those early runs of the Canucks and stuff, those series were right around 2011, 2012, 2013, give or take. But I don't know what drew me to do this stupid Orange Man idea. So long story short there, I forgot the orange shirt. After a billion months and months, I forgot it. My friends like Dubs was like, what, you idiots? So I remember we were sitting in like it was a Long John Silver's, Dunkin' Donuts or something, like a dual restaurant before WrestleMania 24 eating. And we were talking about me forgetting the shirt. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Let's do something. He's like, let's dress up as clowns. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, not really. I'm like, let's do it. Screw it. Let's do it. So literally the first thing we did when we got home from Orlando was we went on Amazon and we bought these ridiculous outfits. And like, I have photos, like full outfits, like onesies, little hats, gloves, giant plastic clown shoes, face paint, everything, noses. And we're like, let's do this. And we decided it was a Grand Rapids, Michigan SmackDown ECW taping. We went on StubHub. We bought front row seats. We paid whatever it was. We called each other out of school. We were like juniors in high school. So I called him out as like his dad. He called me out as my dad. We got in the car and we drove. And the drive there is a story in itself where like I had a flat tire and it was a nightmare. And I did drive on like a donut and I had like 22-inch rims in my car. Like,
but it just adds to the initial story of Frank the Clown.
It almost never happened because like I said, I had like these ridiculous rims in my car, like 22-inch rims, the chrome black ones, and like my actual tire was like this thick.
Yeah.
I hit a pothole and like it was flat, and then like I didn't know how to change a tire, and I couldn't even get the lug nuts off because they were like impacted on a certain way for these rims. I had to have we were like burning in this heat. It was like in May of like in the summer. Eventually we get to the show, right? It was like an 8-hour trip, but it should be like a 2.5-hour trip. And we had the front row. We were right on the camera side, and like, nobody had done anything like this before. And right away, like we were getting reactions. I'll never forget the first wrestler to give me a reaction. It's ironic looking back on it now, was Punk. And I remember he climbed up and he was doing his pose in a turnbuckle and he scanned the crowd and he sees us and he's just like, and he mouths. And we're like, yeah! And throughout that whole show, like we were really rowdy back then, and like we hated Batista for whatever reason. We hated Batista, and we were giving him the middle finger and screaming. He was jawing back at us, and we were taking pictures of people. And we're like, "This is amazing. We have something here." We're like, "We got to keep doing it." We didn't necessarily expect to keep doing it, and then we did it again in like Chicago, Indianapolis, and we went around. And then little by little, I started expanding my horizons, and I started meeting more people. I'm like, "Oh, I'll travel to Detroit. Oh, I'll fly to LA. Oh, I'll go to Florida. Oh, I met someone here. I met someone there." And that's really how it all just snowballed. So there was two clowns. That's the thing. There was two clowns. And then he faded out of it. He like grew up, got mature, he's married now. And I didn't.
He's no longer a clown.
What's funny was we brought him back
Yeah.
He came to show as a clown like 2 years ago as like a 10-year anniversary thing, and like it was only for us, like nobody else. Like,
no, for sure.
But yeah, so that's really how it started. So it just really started as a joke, legitimately to make ourselves laugh. We thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Then like it was a thing at like our high school and stuff. Like, oh, Frank and Dubs, look at they were on Raw last night, you know. And we kept getting moved off of camera.
Yeah.
So WWE just didn't want us on camera by any means, and it was still like that till like this day, pretty much. Where like they would move me off camera, move me to hard cam because we were too distracting for television. But really, and I had a lot of talks to people in production. And it's just like Vince didn't like me, and he didn't like seeing the same faces over and over at the show. And he also didn't like,
which is weird because in the past 5 years, it seems like you do see the same faces in the front row for a lot of the shows. And I think personally, it's different because the same faces we do see now, and I've met Smiley and I've met a lot of them. They're great.
Also, yeah,
they're great people. Like I've met them at shows and they're super nice. But it does take away when it's like they're just sitting there, they're not really doing much. Whereas when you were a clown in the front row, you were active. You were active. You were doing something.
I was too over the top, and I learned over the years to calm down and kind of like know my role to a degree. Yeah. But like I understood it. Like at first when we were getting moved, I'm like, what the hell? Like this is bullshit. But they moved us like the front row on the other side, so it wasn't like they were throwing us up in the rafters, but like it was like the clown seats for a while. It was known with WWE as the clown seats. They would literally leave seats open knowing that we were going to probably be there, and they would move us over there. Yeah. And then when he faded out, it was just me. And then whoever was with me, they were like excited because like if we had like third row seats, they knew we were getting moved to front row. And like, was I taking advantage of it a little bit? Sure. But like, but it wasn't like I was like buying like the rafters and being like, hey, I'm up here, get me to front row.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So
get close enough where they could notice you.
They were going to see me no matter what. Yeah. And like, even then, you put me at hard cam, you're still going to see the back of my head, or a camera shot's going to catch me. But they just didn't want me on there all night long, because if you flip it through the channels, you're going to see the wrestling in the ring. But not long after that, you're going to see the clown that's in the crowd, and it is going to take away from what's going on in the ring. And I understood that. So I didn't like take offense to getting moved after a while. It was what it was. And like I became friends with everybody that was like in that department that handled that. So it was just one of those things where I was fine with it.
Yeah. At what point did you start getting recognized by people when you went to these shows and stuff?
That's a good question. It's hard to pinpoint one, I guess, direct time, but like in Chicago, we were getting recognized right away because that was the most common place I was. Yeah. I would say maybe like a year and a half in or so, because social media wasn't a thing yet. It was starting to pick up.
It's not what it is today. Like there was Facebook and stuff, but it's not like Instagram or how Twitter pops off like it does now.
Right. So like I remember being a Twitter OG. Like I was on Twitter probably in like late 2009, 2010, but a lot of people weren't on there. So I was already kind of establishing like my Twitter, like I guess audience or whatever you want to call it, my profile early on, so people could find me. And I would make signs for myself and hold up like, my Twitter handle. And that was probably around like 2010, like late 2009, all throughout 2010 is when I started going harder and harder to a lot of shows. And people definitely started taking notice and really like, okay, this is the same clown. I get it. So I would say around that time frame is when people were recognizing. And then from that point forward, then I got crazy and I was going constantly. So then people really knew.
Yeah. And then you said you connect with other people. When you say other people, like you did connect with a lot of the other super fans.
Yeah.
There was the Brock Lesnar guy, for example.
The one and only.
There was I forgot the guy's name, but the guy with the white jacket with
John, WWE's biggest fan.
There was John, WWE's biggest fan. That's like his name. That's how I know him. Like you start connecting with him, then we'd see you guys together. Yeah. There was obviously the sign guy with the red hat. Like everybody remembered him for years. And this is post bowl cut haircut guy and post Vlad and all that. This is the new era of Superfan. And the new regime. The new regime of Superfans that started coming together, and we'd see you guys together and stuff. Did you guys purposely connect together, thinking that, like, if we came together like the Avengers, we'll get more recognition? Like,
honestly, John, WWE's biggest fan, was probably the biggest reason that I started going to shows as much as I did, because we met at WrestleMania 26. Yeah, and we just kept in touch from that point forward. And then we went to him, me, and the Brock Lesnar guy. We did our first trip together. It was Over the Limit 2010 in Detroit. So the three of us, one of my high school friends who's not a wrestling guy at all, we drove up there together. We had never done a trip with each other before. And now we're all like super, super close. But like that's what kicked it off. And John was already going hard at this time, but he didn't have the jacket. He was just going to these shows. And Mike wasn't the Brock Lesnar guy.
No, 2012,
So it was me, the only one who had this gimmick. So like And then like I met Rick along the way. Rick was already going hard for a while, and he was like the OG of this.
He's the OG. He's the crossover.
Yeah, he's definitely the OG. And from that point forward, like it was just me, John, and Mike. It was always us three for the most part. And like, you know, we'd be like, you want to go to the show? Like, it wasn't hard to sell each other on going to these shows. Yeah. So as long as one of us were, you know, going, then, oh, boom, we have two. And then the other one would be like, I don't want to be left out. Okay, I'm going to go too. So it was always like the three of us. And then when you go to different city to city, you meet other people and all that, and you see the same people in the crowd. But like, that that trio was that was the group.
Yeah.
And travel together or drive together or stay together, get tickets together. We did everything together. So that was like my group. And still to this day.
That was your band.
Yeah, it was the band. Yeah. Musketeers, man. Like we were.
That's what you put in your 100 hours. Those were your Beatles.
yeah, literally, man. So that's where. So John really brought it out in me because he was already in this world of going to shows constantly. But then he met me, and I'm like this young upstart. You know, he's this grizzled veteran at the time. And I'm like 19, 20 years old. Yeah, I want to go. And I feel like he was dying down until he met me, and then I just like reignited this spark within him.
No, it's cool because I'm like, yeah. Then I saw you guys all getting together, and it was like this group thing. When did Noelle come into the picture? Obviously, she's Mick Foley's daughter. She's been a wrestling fan, obviously, her entire life. She's born and raised on it. But there is a part of her too that kind of like joined the Avengers group. She joined the band. Yeah. She was a part of the Superfan group for a bit. She was at every show. Everybody knows who Noelle is. How did that all happen? How did you get introduced to each other?
Yeah. So weird story. This was back in 2013. So really, like I said, from 2011 to 2013, I was going to almost every single pay-per-view. Like literally, I went through it like a couple days ago. I was talking to somebody on the phone, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back through those years. And I was like, okay, I went to this. Like I went to more pay-per-views that I didn't go to from that span. So at this point, like people really, really knew who I was. And now my social media was a thing. So with that said, it was a Raw in Des Moines, Iowa in 2013. I had never been in Des Moines, Iowa before. It's probably a 5.5 hour drive from me. And literally like the night before, 2 nights before, this lady Val, who I don't even know if I've seen her since then, to be honest. And she was like, you know, somebody I met through going to shows, and like, you know, it was just like a friend, but like more like an acquaintance to a degree because I didn't see her very often. We didn't really keep contact, but she texted me because she knew I was crazy enough to go on short notice to drive to Des Moines, Iowa. She's like, hey, I have an extra front row seat to Raw. Do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll go. So I hit up Brock Lesnar guy, and I'm like, you want to go to Raw? And he's like, yeah, I'll go. I'm like, okay. And that's literally all it took. So I really had to find him to drive out there. So I forced him to drive. So we drove out there. We drove out there together, and he got a ticket that day, and I had my ticket with her. So it was front row camera side on the television side. So I expected to get moved, right? Because every single time I get moved. So we sit down in the seats. I'm waiting. I'm looking around. I know who's going to come and get me. I see him. He's looking at me. He's not coming over to get me. I'm like, all right, whatever. They're going to let me live tonight. So whatever. So the show opened up with Triple H. It was during the time when he was leading up to feud with Daniel Bryan. And where Orton was the champion, I think, right for SummerSlam. And after he cashed Money in the Bank. And he opened up the show, and he's cutting a promo on, why do people like Daniel Bryan? I don't get it. Why does everyone love Daniel Bryan? And then he's basically saying, like, you fans love stupid wrestlers, you love stupid gimmicks. And he went into saying, you guys like Doink the Clown, didn't you? You all love Doink the Clown. And he goes, especially you. You love Doink the Clown. He's pointing right at me. And they put me on a tight shot. They had never done this in all my shows. And I was at hundreds of shows, literally hundreds. They had never just filmed me. Nobody else purposely. If anything, they
found a way to use the clown.
And it was weird because it opened the show. So in my mind, I'm thinking Triple H must have saw me beforehand and was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll use this in the promo. And they film me, and I'm like going like this, like, oh, I'm selling it. I get it. Don't look into the camera. Sell it. Get them the reaction they want.
You're already like pro'd out to how to do this. You're ready.
I knew everything at this point. Like I knew everything, how they worked their production and everything. So after the show, so they didn't move me the whole night, and I just thought it was weird. So after the show, I get a tweet, and I remember walking out of the venue with Brock Lesnar guy, and like, hell, Mick Foley's daughter just tweeted me. I'm like, she's kind of hot, But at the time, Noelle had 1,000 Twitter followers, maybe. She was 19. She was not Nobody knew who she was other
This
than
is
she was
before the blow up. This is before where she's like a social media influencer now.
Way before.
Because even when I first met her, she was still blowing up, and it was just she was Mick Foley's daughter, and you had to be like a really hardcore wrestling fan to know that.
Yeah.
Like
right. If you watch Beyond the Match, she was the girl to nipples.
Yeah.
Like that's what she was, and she didn't have a social media presence at all. So
Holy Foley and everything.
It was way before. Yeah. So so I look at my phone. I'll never forget. I literally said, I'm like, oh, she's pretty hot. Yeah, I'll follow her. And she tweeted me saying, I always wondered who that clown in the crowds at WWE shows were. And now I know it's, at Frank WWE Clown. She's like, you worked that wig. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny. So I quote tweeted or whatever it was back then. And I said, I worked that wig for you, Noelle. I worked that wig for you. I never had any engagement, any interaction.
If there's one thing I can take from this before you continue is that a lot of your story just is you having the balls to be you and just let me see what happens. I'm gonna do it and then we'll see what happens. Like act and ask for forgiveness later. Like,
hey, what's the worst they can say is no, right? So so I follow her. We exchanged tweets back and forth for a couple weeks, right? I didn't immediately bombard her, and it was kind of a thing at the time, on social media. For those who were paying attention, we're like, oh, they see something building here. We're being very flirtatious.
Yeah.
I'll probably take it a little bit too far on my end. I was being very sexually innuendos and all that. Not straightforward, but just very subtle stuff that was out there.
I think we're all like that in our early 20s. As you get older, you're like, oh, that was pretty racy.
Right, exactly. Some of those tweets would dig them up now. I'd be like, but so we tweet each other for a couple of weeks, and then eventually I slide into the DMs. I ask for her number. She does not give it to me. She says, let's DM here on Twitter first. This will be the in-between thing. So we DM on Twitter for a couple weeks again. Eventually, she coughs up the number, and we're texting. Then we start FaceTiming. We talked for roughly 6 months, September, and I ended up flying out there in January. So in January 2014, I went to the Rumble, which was in Pittsburgh, and then I flew to New York to surprise her. So at this point, we were talking every day. It wasn't like I was some strange man going out there. So I flew out there.
You guys built a relationship at this point.
Absolutely. And so I arranged with her best friend that they were going to support. They're going to take her out to lunch. I was going to show up. So I was kind of being weird in the days before. So she kind of saw it coming because I was like, what are you doing on this day? I was just being really obvious because I was excited. Yeah. And then so eventually I flew out there. Nervous, obviously, because this is it could be a pivotal moment in my life, which it was. And we went to this restaurant. I was in the bathroom. They sat down. I came out of the bathroom. Boom, there it was. We have lunch. And then she's like, you want to come to my house? Meet my family? And I'm like, sure. Yeah. So I didn't have time to prepare, right? I'm going to Mick Foley's house. I don't get starstruck. Very, very seldom I get starstruck. I wasn't starstruck then. If I'm being honest, I wasn't a huge Mick Foley fan growing up. I didn't dislike him, but he just wasn't one of my guys.
And hearing what you've told me at the beginning of the show, you were a WCW guy. Right. You didn't get into 2001 until Mick was already retired for the first time out of his 30 retirements.
Right. Literally, my first WWF show I ordered was WrestleMania 17. He was a special guest referee. He wasn't an active wrestler. So so I go to the house. I play cool. I know how to act in situations. And that was it. And I had my own hotel room. So I wasn't expecting to stay at her house and all that. That was the only time I ever stayed at a hotel. Every single time after that, I stayed at the house. But everything was super cool. He already knew me as Frank the Clown, which is weird. He didn't know anything beyond that, but he knew because, again, I was going to a lot of shows. He saw the Clown. I had met him as a fan numerous times. So he already knew the name. He was aware, which is kind of weird. But I didn't want to go into the house and be like, I'm this huge wrestling fan. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't think I talked wrestling once with him. And she has, her brothers were much littler at the time. Now they're giant beasts. Yeah. And
I've only ever talked to Dewey. I've never talked to the other two.
Yeah, so you'd have no kind there because they're not social media guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, they I don't even know if Dewey. I think Dewey had already moved out at this point because he was at school or something. He lived in Texas, so he wasn't there when I first met them. But yeah, and really the rest was history. I then saw her again at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, and then from that point forward, we're like, all right, we're gonna do this, right? And she's like,
so when did you officially ask her out?
Yeah, it was April 7th, 2014. So it was the night after WrestleMania 30. What's funny was
your own miracle on Bourbon Street,
dude. And we were out at some of the bars there, Razoo's was the place to be that WrestleMania trip, especially. And I remember there's a lot of wrestlers there. That was always the go-to place. And people, obviously we were very PDA with each other at this point. And I remember Heath Slater, who I like a friend to this day. I was with him years and years before, even before he debuted in WWE, I knew him. So like he pulled me aside, and I'll never forget it. He's like, look, man, he's like, if you fuck with her and break her heart, it's like, me and the boys are gonna beat your ass. And I'm like, oh, cool, you got it, dude. I'm a good guy. You know, I'm a good guy. Like, I'll treat her with respect. You know that. And he didn't like know her other than that. He was just kind of being like, you know, kind of busting my balls, but kind of not busting my balls at the same time. But I'll never forget that talk.
Well, like obviously all the boys in a sense have a ton of respect for Mick Foley, and that's his daughter. And it's like, you know, you mess with Mick's daughter, like, we know of you, you're the clown guy, but if you mess with Mick's daughter,
they knew me.
Kick your ass. Don't be using this for clout or some shit. Like, you better be serious about this.
They thought people I'm sure thought like, oh, you're just trying to take advantage, like you're trying to like, you know, work the system and all that, which I wasn't at all. And like, that's the thing, like you said, like wrestlers didn't know how to act around her. Like they were like scared to hug her. Like they just like didn't want it blowing back on them because she's like, you know, a very good looking, attractive young girl. And
at that age.
Don't exactly. And like, they just didn't want to be in a weird predicament. So yeah, a lot of people like obviously went to bat for her and like reached out to me and all that. But like the people who knew me knew like I was a good guy and like I, you know, was going to treat her with respect, you know, not some sleazeball, contrary to popular belief. But yeah, that's when it really all started kicking off.
So 3 things I want to say off of that whole story is before we get to Holy Foley, I have a question and 2 things I want to say. One thing I want to say is I didn't get to go to WrestleMania 30, but I was at WrestleMania 34. And if they ever do WrestleMania in New Orleans again, for anyone listening to this, go, because I've been to WrestleMania in Dallas, I've been to WrestleMania in New York, I've been to WrestleMania in Seattle. I have never had more fun than the one in New Orleans. It's just everything's close knit. You actually do get to see all the wrestlers when you're out and hanging out on Purvis Street. They're all out to you. It's just a different vibe.
Dude, it's awesome. And like I wish WrestleMania is almost there every single year. And like WrestleMania 30 and 34 are very different experiences for us. WrestleMania 30, I almost feel like I had a little bit more fun at because WrestleMania 34 was different. Now Noelle is Noelle. Now Frank is Frank. We really, and I don't sound like arrogant, but like we couldn't walk down Bourbon Street without being stopped constantly. And I'm
not even that popular, and I kept getting stopped.
Right? Okay? You're like, those are your people. They know you. If anyone,
that's my element. Like that doesn't happen if I go downtown right now. But it's WrestleMania. Like, yo, you the Wrestling Classic? Can we get a picture? And I'm like, and for years, at the beginning years, up until 2016, like I hid my identity, my name. I never took pictures of people when they asked, but at this point I was like, let's take a picture, and it became a thing, and I'd like lose my friends. So I get it. But New Orleans, probably one of the best places for WrestleMania. The second thing I wanted to say, for people that don't know, and I'm just throwing this out there from my experiences with her, you know, I was like super cool. Like she's super chill, she's super sweet. I don't think, like, even if you are offensive, she doesn't take it, or she won't make you know that you're being offensive. She'll probably say it behind the scenes, but she'll be like, oh no, it's okay, like like she's super cool. So I understand why some people might have been nervous around her when she was at that age and she's pretty. Like, we don't know what is the boundary to. She's
kind of intimidating to like approach because she's 6 feet tall and she's stunning, gorgeous, and like she, you know, she's Noelle Foley, like she's like like, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but like she's like the wrestling fangirl, I guess, right?
And it's so funny because if you know, I post girls on my page, the Wrestling Classic. Every morning I show females, or throw in my story and stuff. And then when Noelle followed me, I was like, oh, we'll post Noelle and stuff. And the reason she was so cool is because I would just jokingly, and I don't know, she probably won't remember this, but I was jokingly like, ask Noelle a question, and we'll see if she answers. And people would start asking questions in the comment section, and she would answer.
She's answered them all day. But
and I was like, yo, she's cool, man. Like, this is dope. This is my page, and she just answering people's questions. I was like, ask Noelle anything. Let's see if she answers. And people would ask things, and she would answer. So then when I came out to certain events, and we'd see each other, and she's like, oh, you're that guy. And I'm like, yeah. And then she was always super cool. Now, the third thing I want to say, besides putting over Noelle and the New Orleans thing, is, so you started dating Noelle. And at this point, things changed. Now it's not only like you're just going to these events, you're the super fan in the front row. Like, you got a little bit more access. You get to go backstage a little bit more. You get to meet people. What was the, like, did you have a certain reputation that you had to break when you first started meeting wrestlers? Were any of them harder on you than others? Can we get a story or two maybe?
Yeah, you know, so like, there was a reputation because reputation is like the king of the marks, right? So like it's frowned upon and they don't know you beyond seeing you in the crowd or seeing you outside of it. And if you see me outside of it at a hotel or whatever it is, you can then get to know me. And then you're like, oh, cool. Like, that's why I made a lot of relationships, but I didn't make relationships with everyone because I just had the opportunity to. So, I mean, things change was I wasn't paying for tickets as much as I used to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, like
I understand.
Right. And then like, you know, so I was going backstage more often, and that was intimidating for me because I just felt like now like the king of the marks is roaming backstage.
Mhm.
And again, I know how to act in situations, so I'm not like drawing any attention to myself. But like, it's just a different environment. But like, people start taking me more seriously at this point too, because now they're getting to know like, okay, he's not just like some dumb mark who's like running around being a maniac and getting pictures of everyone, this and that. So like, I know how to act in situations. And my thing I always abided by was like, if you haven't been there before, act like you've been there before, and you'll be there again.
Yeah.
And like, I've been to like, you know, the very heralded WrestleMania after parties. I've been to like 6 of them at this point. They're not open to fans. And even like, we've had hard times. Noelle and I was getting in sometimes because like, you know, they have to have like a wristband, and like we just didn't have the wristbands, and then they would give us a hard time, like the hotel security, and somebody be like, they're fine. So like, I've been in these very, I don't know if you want to call it high intensity situations, but very intimidating situations for a wrestling fan. And I just know how to play it. And I think that resonated with people. They're like, oh, even if they're not talking to me, they see me and they're like, oh, that's Noelle's boyfriend. That's the clown guy. He's cool. Like, you know, like.
Anyone that gave you a hard time though? Like, is there any?
Give me a hard time.
I know wrestlers can be tough. Like, you know, they mean it. And they also, when I say like, I've had situations where wrestlers will give me a hard time, but it's only because I think they're testing me.
Yeah.
Because then every time after I meet them or met them since, they'd be like, oh no, this is just the wrestling classic. He's cool, man. And it's like, oh, it was just like the testing my level of markness almost kind of.
Yeah. I really can't pinpoint too much a moment where I felt like I didn't belong or like I had a bad interaction. I really can't. And I almost probably think it's because I was with Noelle. So people just assume like, okay, he's good then. Like that's Mick's daughter's boyfriend. He should be good. I really have to think about that. I have to get back to you because I can't. I'm trying to run through like times in my head, and I just really can't pinpoint one that like stood out where it's like, I'm sorry. But there's instances where like I remember being at a WrestleMania after party. I don't know what year it was, and like there's a dance floor, and you know, like Rosenberg's a DJ or Jamie Ivine's DJ one year, and like the dance floor is like the place to be. Now, some people don't go to the dance floor because they don't want to. Like, you know, like CM Punk's on the dance floor at these parties. Like when I was there, he's off in the corner and he's talking whatever. But then like, I remember one year, like Randy Orton is the king of the dance floor at these parties. Like legit, man. Him and his wife, Kim, kill it. Every year I was there, like Randy doesn't give a shit. And like, he's probably drinking, she's drinking. Like they're having fun. That's the most important thing. But I remember Kim started coming up to me and like dancing with me. And like, I look over and I'm like, and now I'm like, oh my God, Randy sees. Now she's like grinding on me. We were like, dancing. And I remember looking over and I see Randy like 10 feet away, and he knows me, and he looks over and he's like stone faced. I'm like, oh my God. And he's goes, and then also he cracks a big smile and he's like, yeah. And he comes dancing over. Now it's like the three of us dancing. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Right. Like in my mind, I'm marking out still, but I'm not showing it. But yeah, like there's so many small interactions. I've forgotten more than I remember. But yeah, man, there's been some super like cool, crazy times.
From a fan perspective, and this doesn't sound like the markiest thing to say, but from a fan perspective, there is a weird, for anyone that ever meets wrestlers and they want to actually like be cool with the wrestlers, I think the biggest thing is remembering that they're humans and not marking out. You can mark out in your mind that when you said that, like you can do that, but just be cool, man. Just like be cool. Treat them mostly when we're older now. Like I'm 28. Like at this point in my life, I want to have a beer with these guys. I don't want to like get a picture or sign an autograph. And like,
I got all of that out of my system early on. Like I have a shit ton of photos with wrestlers from like when I was a real mark. And I don't even like using the word marks. I feel like it's a derogatory term. But like,
but I think there's different connotations to it. There are bad marks, there's good marks. I think half the people that probably work in the company were marks at once in their life too. Like we're at a point now where the words has like 10 different meanings.
Right. And like, so I got that all out of my system early on. Like I have a huge thing of autographs, stuff like that. And then like, I already had it out of my system at an early age. So when I got into this environment, I didn't have any desire to do it. Now, are there some people that was like, well, I got to get a picture with this guy. Like,
no, for sure.
Of course, there was like Scott Hall one year. I had never met Scott Hall. And that was like my guy. Like it was like Hogan and Scott Hall are my two guys back in WCW. And he was at the WrestleMania party. And I'm like, well, my God. I'm like, and I used her. Like, can you please stop Scott Hall?
I'll put it in this perspective. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, when I meet guys I grew up watching, like Brett, Ric Flair, Scott, I kind of want to approach it a little bit fanboyish because that's what I grew up watching. I kind of am like, oh, do you mind grabbing a picture? This and that. I actually hung out with Scott, never took a picture because of the scenario. But when I meet someone that's on the roster today, and they're like maybe anywhere from their mid-20s to the
right. It's kind of weird then. Like,
I'm like, I'm already 29. I'd rather hang out with this guy. Let's go for dinner, have a beer.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just be cool, have a conversation. Like, nice to meet you. If they're in a situation with a signing, I'm like, yeah, we'll take a picture. But like, we're the same age now. Like, that's why sometimes I get mad when fans will talk crap about meeting wrestlers and them being rude. I'm like, if you approach them at certain places, aka airports and hotels, and you're over the age of like 16 and you're a boy, like, don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's not the way to build a relationship, obviously, right? Like,
it's like, you know, I would get annoyed too.
It's not like a true interaction. It's just like, it's not like there's no connection to it at all. It's just like, okay, boom, boom, okay, next, you know.
So Holy Foley. Yeah. How did that all come about? How did you feel when you heard about it? What was that all about?
So it was funny because like originally it was supposed to be on USA. It was pitched to be on USA. And they filmed like a sizzle reel for it. And a sizzle reel, for those who don't know, is like basically like putting together footage to sell to a network, and the network will then buy the show and put it on air. So they filmed a sizzle reel, and I wasn't involved in that. I didn't really think I was going to have much of a role when it happened. And USA actually did turn it down, or whatever happened. It just didn't work out with USA. So then the idea was dead, and it was just like, oh, okay, it's not going to happen. Noelle was really disappointed. She's like, nothing ever works out, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it got resurrected by WWE. Like Vince got the sizzle reel and was like, this is great. We need to get this on the network. And the network was still growing. They needed more original content at the times because it launched in 2014, and this was around late 2015, early 2016. And
I think they started promoting it late 2015 and it like came out in 2016.
Yeah, so like they needed original content. The only original content they had was like Legends House, and beyond that they didn't have much. It was like shorts. And they need like another reality show. So this falls on their desk, and they're like, we're gonna do this. So I remember being on calls at WrestleMania, like during that week, like whatever it was, WrestleMania 32. 31, 32. Yeah, they all blend together. But I remember being on like the production calls, you want to call it, and I was told I was going to be on maybe 2 episodes. Okay, so I get the call, and they're like, we're going to bring you in for like 2 weeks. We'll pay you this much. Blah blah blah. I'm like, cool, I'm in. So and so they fly me out there for like the first week of filming, and it was like, so a couple like behind the scenes things was, it wasn't the actual Foley house. It was a house that was rented because it was easier to get like the union workers who do like the production, the camera work, to get them to where this house was from like New York City, which a lot of people are stationed in, like Manhattan. So that was an operation itself. And then so then there's just little things that came into it, like little factors, but whatever. Again, I was told I was going to be just like a special guest, you know, 1 or 2 episodes. So I'm there for the first week, and they introduced me in the first episode, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I wind up being on 8 out of 10 episodes. And really, I had the most screen time behind Noelle and her dad, arguably. I want to say the most, because Dewey had just started working for WWE at this time, legitimately.
Yeah, that was like an angle at the beginning of the show.
It was an angle that he was trying to get the job, but he had already been there for a little bit, but he was still new, so he didn't want to have to take time off of work and like, oh, it's Mick Foley's kid, he's got to miss a meeting because he's got to go do the stupid show. He didn't want that, and he just didn't operate well.
He was working the politics right.
Yeah, and he just didn't like the whole idea of reality television. I think he would say it too, and so he ended up kind of fading out of it. And then that kind of was a springboard, I guess, weirdly for me to have more screen time. But they were just humiliating me from beginning to end on the show. And for those who have watched it, like the whole premise was like that I wasn't working, which I had worked a job right prior. I had left the job literally weeks before the show.
Yeah,
and literally
it made you seem like a boyfriend.
Right. And literally the day I left my job working at a restaurant, the same day I got a call for Holy Foley that it was a go. It was just like a pure irony. And and so like, but they're harping on me like I'm some loser. And like, but I was like, but they didn't even like let me dive into it that much. So like they kept building and like, you're gonna have this big payoff. You're gonna have this big payoff. It's gonna be amazing. I was pitching ideas. And the big payoff was me bringing Rosenberg's intern. No disrespect to Rosenberg, but the whole like big moment was like I was bringing water for him and Greg at the Cheap Heat studio, and they didn't tell me. Everything was like a secret. They literally busted me down there, didn't tell me where I was going. I knew because I talked to Rosenberg the night before, but like there was a secret. That was the thing. They tried to set us up with secrets left and right. And I was so pissed. Oh my God. Now I can talk about it, but at the time I couldn't talk about it. But like I was so frustrated with the whole like idea of the show and what was going on. I felt like I was being mistreated. I felt like they weren't giving me a good chance. And I was kind of being a diva, if I'm not gonna lie. And there were financial issues that I felt like I was gonna take advantage of. And because I was told I was gonna be on 2 episodes, but you're paying me for this. Like it ended up working out. So I spoke up. I wish I had spoke up sooner because I could have maybe had more say in my story, but they already had the story they wanted to go into, and there was no derailing that, even as much as I tried to derail it. So I don't want to shit on it too much and sound bitter. It was a great experience. I got to like live with Noelle and her family for 3 months in New York City. I got paid for it. I was on WWE television. I got to have these really cool interactions. I'm not dogging that. I just wish if me now at 29 years old, if the same situation came to be, I would approach it differently and I would have like spoke up and been more confident about things. But I was just like, I wasn't the key member of the show. I'm not part of the family. So I could only say so much, right? So like I was in a weird spot.
I forgot that at the end you ended up being Rosenberg's assistant. I forgot about that. That's what happened. That was the job you got.
I know. Hilarious. I don't even live in New York. Like I live in Chicago, and like it was just I didn't hate the idea.
That
so much.
damn Rosenberg found a way to get himself on the show. I tell you.
I know. Unbelievable.
Shout out to Rosenberg. He's the man. But even though it might have been a difficult situation, actually, before that, did they ever talk about doing a season 2, or was it automatically like that was?
No. So there was definitely talks for season 2. I was on call for season 2, and really, I think what it boiled down to was money. It was an expensive show because again, you're renting a house. You have a union that you're paying to do these jobs. They're working overtime a lot. There was like, again, we were living in this house, and it was a furnished house, but the basement was their production office. There were like 30 people in this basement at all times. So like we're sleeping, there's people in this basement. They're knocking on our doors at 7 a.m. Like people don't understand. It's not all rainbows and butterflies like television. It's really hard work, and it's really rigorous, and like it's stressful. It's really stressful. It was really weighing on all of us. And but yeah, there was talks for season 2, but I think just the money and it being an expensive show, and I want to say maybe Mick had a little bit of a falling out with WWE around that time too, and that could have played a factor into it. But for whatever it was definitely discussed. I don't think it's ever fully dead, if I'm being honest. But because I always hear rumblings about it randomly, like Noelle be like, "Yeah, I got this weird text," like, But yeah, it was talked about. We thought it was going to happen, and it may have like there was an idea tossed around that like they were going to maybe focus on something with me with like wrestling and stuff like that, kind of do like a reverse on Noelle, and
I get what you mean. Yeah,
but yeah. So
I've got a couple of questions about that still, and I really want to talk about your wrestling stuff, so we got to get there next. Yeah. But before, I'm trying to go in order. But there's 3 things I want to ask.
We're good. I know we're approaching like an hour. We're good. So
there's 3 things I want to ask you about this Holy Foley thing. Yeah. First things first, because answer the best you can, because obviously you can't speak for her, but the chances that I'm ever going to talk to her now that she's big time is probably pretty slim right now. I'm going to have to go through a couple of channels or whatnot. So, Noelle's big. It's not the same Noelle that used to answer questions on my post. No. She's big time now. She's with an agency and everything. Might have to hit up Cam or something, but from whatever you can say from your perspective, also you can't speak fully for her, but is she still wrestling? Is she still pursuing that? Is that still a thing, or was that just for the show?
No, so she already had training before the show. She was getting like Matt Striker and stuff way before the show. And when I first met her, she was in training, and didn't know where she wanted to go with it necessarily, but she was just it was just the path that like she just in her mind she felt like she had to follow. She took some time off, and then the show came up, and she was like legitimately training for the show. It wasn't just like cameras are on, Noelle bump. She was still doing it when cameras were off. To like she didn't want to like look like a fool. But they beat the crap out of her, dude. And like Sasha and Becky beat the crap out of her. She got injured really bad. She like bruised her rib. We had to rush her to the hospital. I don't even think that made the show. I think they talked about it, but it wasn't shown. Yeah. And like she's just fragile. That's really what it boils down to. And she's not super athletic. And what I mean, not super athletic, she's not athletic at all. She doesn't love it. She loves wrestling, but I don't think she loves wanting to be a wrestler. She doesn't love the idea of being a wrestler. I think she can contribute to the business in other ways, but
100%.
It's always, the door's always there, right? Obviously, it's probably a phone call away. But at the same time, she's had concussion issues she's been dealing with for a better part of a year now. So that's really obviously is a lot of things in the back burner. But it's like a wrestling cliche, never say never. There's potential there. And obviously the potential is very obvious, but in a lot of the stories write itself. But We'll see. It's something that maybe we'll revisit. Yeah. She's only 26, so like,
yeah, and she's got like from what I can see, like a great relationship with the company, and there's a ton of stuff that she can do that doesn't really involve getting physical in the ring.
Yeah,
whether it's hosting, whether it's they have all this original content they want to put on the network, if they need someone to host that stuff. I know she's dipping her toe in a couple of other things that she might be doing some hosting for and stuff. So like, it's not like she's not. Like, she has because of that show, and even because of whose daughter she is and everything together and the work she's put in, and it is work, like you said, being on the television show. People are like, we're on a television show that got over. Like, that's hard work to try to commit to this show. And as much as it's a reality TV show, we know it's not fully reality. So like,
your words, not mine.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like, commitment and stuff that you have to play off, and a lot of acting involved. And two things I will say about that is, because of that, I think there's a ton of potential for things that she can do that doesn't really necessarily mean her in the ring in the future. And like you said, she's 26. She's got a ton of time. That's not old. I'm 28 and I still feel like I'm Peter Pan. So it's not old. And then the second thing I want to bring up about that whole situation is that now, going all the way back to the beginning again, this kid that wanted to be an actor, this kid that took acting school and wanted to do something in entertainment and be the next Conan O'Brien, was on a TV show for the WWE Network. That's insane.
I've swindled myself into so many situations I probably had no business being in, but I got there because I know how to navigate things. Not saying I was like using my way to get to this reality show, because at the time,
no, it wasn't like, it wasn't a plan. It just worked that way, though.
Yeah. It's just things work out in a weird way a lot of times, and the universe has a mysterious, way about it. And again, like, it wound up being on television or the WWE Network, whatever you want to call it. But man, it really what was surreal for me. And like, I have only watched the episodes once when they first came out. I never watched them again because I didn't want. I'm like, that's all I needed to see. I'm done with it. I remember being at like WrestleMania and they were playing like a preview video on the Titan WrestleMania. I'm like, oh, I'm on the Titantron WrestleMania. I'm also front row WrestleMania right now from 100,000 people. And here's me. I'm like, no other fan has ever done this. Like,
was that WrestleMania 32 in Dallas?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the one where Foley came after and cheersed you with the beer after this segment. And then at this point, everyone knew who you were now. And it's
right. And like,
Frank the Clown.
So it very, very surreal. So there's just a lot of things that like that this clown thing, that's the thing. It all comes back to the clown idea, because if I never had dressed up as a clown, who knows? Like, my life's probably incredibly different. Like, vastly different. I might have not even gone to like wrestling shows that much. I might not have met a lot of people I met. I would probably never met Noelle. I would have maybe not had been the wrestling business and all. Like, it's just
never danced around your own wife.
Weird idea. This wig and face paint, man. Like, literally, like it's if you trace it all the way back, like you said, you'll trace things together. Like, it all starts with that idea, and like, people can shit on it or like be like it's stupid or whatever it is, all they want. But like,
people always shit on things at the beginning, and then when they see you doing things, they jump on the band. Well, like, what's this clown thing? Then afterwards, they'll be like, oh, but he did this now. That's so. I know him. But moving forward, so how did you get
here we go
in the ring? How did you start actually getting booked for wrestling shows? Being in the ring, being a character, because now Frank the Clown is over. He was on Holy Foley too.
He is.
There's this thing, and now people are actually wanting Frank the Clown to get involved. The first thing I personally remember, if I can share a story, is John Carlo invited me to spring break. I rolled up there with the Struggles. Ryan, shout out to him. He drove me there. I was at spring break. Joey Janela's spring break, one of the coolest, most fun shows of WrestleMania weekend if you guys have never been. And you got jumped.
I job every spring break, man. I job out every spring break. But you know what it is? I closed the show. I closed the goddamn show. It's the biggest indie show of the year, and I'm one of the main cogs in closing the show, whether people want to. I don't care if I'm getting beat up by a bunch of girls or not. I have that spot. But
that first one I remember is you were a fan in the crowd, as Frank the Clown is, and you got attacked from the crowd.
That story is funny. Because the first spring break or the second spring break, which was in New Orleans, I was in the front row, and like Joey punched me during his entrance, and like I went literally straight from the Hall of Fame. I was in my suit still. I went home. I went to the hotel. I got my bags. I was very late because the Hall of Fame went on for hours and hours. I got an Uber and I went, and then of course, like 3 a.m, I didn't go out there and didn't take the hit from Joey. But then the next year, last year's spring break in Jersey, that's when I was like dragged out of the crowd by the girls, and then just dragged to the ring and get the crap beat out of me.
So like, how'd you get into like actual independent wrestling then? Like, what was your first booking?
So I did one really
start?
random one. I had like a documentary crew follow me for like a year, actually doing like, they were covering wrestling fans and like super fans, and really never saw the light of day. But I did one very small appearance in like a Rumble. Yeah, I have some of the footage, and like I feel like it might get resurrected one day, but it's kind of like, it's been years now, so a lot of like I don't know if the footage holds up as well, but that's neither here nor there. But I did one little appearance with them for part of the documentary at like an indie show in like Omaha, Nebraska, and I never really like counted. Nobody really saw it. I never really counted or anything. But really, my first true one was Freelance Wrestling here in Chicago. I was asked to do a part of the pre-show. And Nick Hausman from Wrestling Inc., he hosted these pre-shows back then. He's like, yeah, I want to do like some sort of angle with you. I don't know what, but let's just do something. I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. I've been wanting to like get in the ring and do something fun. So he's like, so let's do like this work shoot promo. He's like, the freelance crowd's really like rabid. They're punk rock. They're heavy marks, like 20 and over. They're going to hate you. So like, you're not going to do much, but like, let's get something viral here. I'm like, okay, cool. So I wrote out this whole promo. I'm killing my gimmick right now. But I wrote this whole promo, and I didn't know anyone there really. And I was like really on my best behavior. I'm like, I don't know what I can say, what I can't say. Am I going to offend all the boys in the back by saying this and saying that? And I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So I go out there and I do this. And the whole idea of the angle was like, I'm doing this legitimate interview to promote Holy Foley. And you know, the crowd, we banked on the crowd ragging on me. So of course they're ragging on me. They don't want to see me talk about Holy Foley. And then I start breaking down little by little. Like there's cracks and chinks in my armor. And eventually I snap and I start going off on the crowd. So they think it's real. Like that I just, Frank the Clown had enough. He has thin skin. He's a baby. And I'm just going off on him. And I cut, like, to me, I actually might think might be my best promo to this day, weirdly. And because it was my
Can people watch this? Is this on YouTube?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Okay.
I'll send you the link. And I'm really proud of it. And it put me on the map for sure initially. So what's funny was I wasn't scheduled to do anything else on the show that night. And then Robert Anthony, and Ethan Page were main eventing that night in a cage match. It was Ego versus Ego. It was their big blow off. They were feuding for like a year. And Rob, who I just met that night, Ethan Page, who I just met that night, they're like, we want to use you in the main event. I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. They're like, yeah, we need like a good heater, I think. So Frank, you'll manage Ethan Page, and Ethan and Page, and all Ego's going over Ego Anthony. So with my help, and Rob like dragged me into the cage, and he was gonna like skewer me and all that. And it's funny because now him and I are like act together. But like the time, like I was with all Ego, and so Ethan Page wins, and then whatever, yada yada yada, and that was it. And then the next day, the promo goes up, and I had like reached out to people like that I knew had like some following and stuff. I'm like, this is going to go out. If you don't mind, like, you know, tweet it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But really, I didn't even need to do that because that's
part of the grind anyways. But
yeah. And like, I caught a ton of steam on its own. It was all over the dirt sheets, and people like thought it was legitimate. Like that Frank the Clown had a breakdown because people thought that of me, like that I had thin skin and all that, when it's the complete opposite.
Well, so, like the reason you're so easily dislikable is because people, mostly fans, if we're gonna be blunt, will sometimes get a little jealous. Yeah. Because they will say things like, you know, he's only over because he dresses like a clown in wrestling shows. Oh, he's only over because he's dating
that. Yeah.
How often do you get the he's only over because he's Noelle's boyfriend?
Constantly. And now I tap into it. So now it's just like, now I understand how to tap into it. I always knew I could push people's buttons. I'm like, I should use this weird internet heat towards something. And that's what really was the inspiration to get into the ring more and more. And I really didn't do much after Freelance. Like Freelance didn't want to book me for like 2 years. There was like a thing. I don't even know the full story, but like they just didn't want to book me. And I don't know if there was a stigma attached to me or whatever it was. And like I started doing shows periodically here and there. And then eventually I worked my way back there. And I was always proud of that because like I earned my way back there rather than, like, it was funny because I didn't get booked for years, and I was told like I was shut down every step of the way. Like, we don't want Frank the Clown, we don't want Frank the Clown. And then behind me, there's a poster sent. Oh God, the invert. Let me go this way. The Send in the Clown, which was February this year. I'm on the poster. The show is named after me, and I main evented the show. So I went from not getting booked, and when I was booked on the pre-show, to not getting booked for years, to having the first ever sellout in freelance history.
You know what else? And this is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was just thinking from like, I'm a, first things first, for people that don't know, marketing degree, marketing student. That's been my thing. I've worked in finance and real estate and all that, but marketing has always been my thing. That's what always made the wrestling classic a little bit easy for me. But a clown is so marketable.
It's been proven.
And I know it was, you had no intention to be the clown or anything like that. Like, now that we've heard the whole story, but if I was a wrestling company, I'm like, bring in the clown. Like, that's so marketable. Like, let's see the clown get his ass whooped. Like, the dislikable clown. Like, who doesn't want to see a dislikable clown get his ass whooped?
Even if you don't know me, it's just fun to want to see the clown get his ass kicked. Especially now when you see me come out and I don't act like a clown. I don't do tricks. I always describe myself as I'm basically Conor McGregor if he didn't know he was a clown. Like, if he was a clown, but he just had no idea. So, like, I just don't know I'm a clown. So that's really like how I mentally envision myself. And there's a lot of
and you're not like the carny clown. You're like a villain clown.
Yeah.
You're like a you do it to mess with people kind of clown. Like, I know this pisses you off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep doing it to piss you off, and I'm gonna distract you with all of this.
Right.
Because I can. You're just like that prick.
Right. And I like wearing super loud outfits. I probably spend more money than anybody on the indies when it comes to gear, and I'm not a wrestler. So like because to me it's all about the presentation, right? I'm not really wrestling. So I have to look the part, and there was like time where I couldn't find myself what I wanted to wear. And I wear like t-shirts with like my face on it or something, like not even like this, just like a plain one, or like I'd wear a shirt that just said WWE Network Megastar and black jeans and it's just with the face paint. I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. And then I started to find myself, and I'm like, I just need to buy the most ridiculous outfits I can possibly find, but also make them like fashionable. So not even like I just look like an a-hole. Like I look like a rich a-hole clown. Just like but he's like a super villain at the same time. Like you just want it, like he's just such, like you hate him so much. And I understand, like, being a fan first for years, I know what I didn't like, and I know what pissed me off. So now I use it against everyone.
And there's guys out there that probably think they can kick your ass. Obviously, there's guys out there that probably wish they were with Noelle. You get all this extra heat that's so easy that I just think it's tremendous.
I don't even have to do much. Like it's funny. Like,
I remember at that Janela show, someone was like, I don't know what this guy's doing, and like, don't ever do that, Justin. And I'm like, but I get it. I'm like, I get it. This is gonna get over. It might be weird and like, why is this fan getting involved with this, getting knocked up by Jordan? Like, so there were people there that weren't a big fan of it. But I remember standing there being like, I get it though. Like, this is gonna work because people do know who he is. Joey gets it clearly, and he's a fucking clown. Like, let's see him get knocked out. People want to see that dumb clown that's on WWE all the time get knocked out.
At the very least, it's a great visual. And again, if you don't know who I am, it's a funny visual to see. And like, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm very new still, like the wrestling business. I've really consistently been doing shows. The first one at Freelance was back in late 2016, but like I said, I didn't do much after that. So these last 2 years,
so it's like 2018, 2019, you went back.
Yeah. Like end of 2018, and like I really came into my own, I think, in these last, like, probably from like the summer of 2019 to now, I really started to find myself.
It's goddamn coronavirus messed with a lot of people.
Dude, and like that's the thing, like me and Rob were killing it. We were really hitting our stride, and he's still killing it. He's on AEW Dark tonight.
So are you officially like Rob's manager right now?
Yeah. So me and Rob have been in act now for for the better part of like probably a year and a half. And really, he was kind of on the outs of the wrestling business. He's 38 years old. He's already been in WWE. He was in developmental. He's done everything. He's done the long road trips. He doesn't need to do it. He's got a real life job. He's got a family. But then he met me, and I resurrected his career. I tell him it all the time. I'm like, I am the reason. Like, you're at AEW wrestling Jon Moxley. You're welcome. But he taught me a lot, because he's like this old grizzled vet that knows everything.
And a lot of people know him. He's very well known in the industry when it comes to wrestling stuff. Very well respected.
Nobody says anything bad about Rob, and I learned that early on.
And then for those that are just wrestling fans listening to this, like, there's a lot of guys that have been in the independents in a lot of different territories and a lot of different places up here in Vancouver, out anywhere in the States, that probably never made it to WWE or WCW or AEW, something, but really well respected because they helped a lot of these guys out when they were there. And Rob's one of those guys. He's one of those guys a lot of people respect, because a lot of people have worked with him. A lot of people have trained with him and all that type of stuff. And, and there's young guys today that are on TV that respect Rob and have their Rob stories and stuff. So 100%. And to your point, like, I think for someone like him who's been doing it for so long, you gave him something that he could sink his teeth into. And I think when you can sink your teeth into something, you can have fun.
Right.
And your game. And
with Rob is like, he's always been a very like a workhorse, like straightforward technical wrestler. He could wrestle all different styles. He's been lacking on, I think, the character thing, because he wrestled under a mask for a while. Then he had to find himself when he took off the mask, and he like found himself, but he was always like the bruiser guy, but like there was something missing still. And I think it's not like he would say this too. It's not a knock on him, but then like I came in and now I allow him. I've not only extended his career because he takes like less bumps because I do stuff during the matches, but like I can talk for him, and he's a great talker, but like he doesn't have to talk. He can be like the brooding big guy, like the Brock Lesnar to the Paul Heyman. And then like he can play off of me and find himself like a little bit more character inside of him. And I've been telling him too, like on AEW, like, you know, I'm like, do more, find something. Like, it's funny because I'm giving him advice. I'm way younger than him, but like at the same time, like I'm not there. And like, you're there because you're there. So like, show them who you are, that I know who you are, but like tap into that character, whether it's intensity or like whatever it is that you can do, tap into it. And I'm curious to watch like his matches. He's wrestling Scorpio Sky tonight. I'm curious to watch and see if he took my advice. He probably didn't. But like the dude can do anything in the ring. There's nothing he can't do. He can wrestle any style. He can go for an hour. He can get bloody. He can do death matches. I mean, the dude can do it all.
And to my earlier point, like it's actually really dope that he, you know, he's on AEW and he's on Dark, and hopefully one day he'll be on one of the Dynamites. Because it's well deserved is the perfect way to put it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that you couldn't be there with him with your guys' tandem. And I never say never; it's still a thing. But
that's all I'm gonna say.
On that note, what should we be looking forward to when it comes to Frank the Clown? What's next on the agenda after this lockdown quarantine? Crazy as 2020 comes to a close and hopefully life gets back to normal. Like, where do we expect to see Frank?
Honestly, I've made a point in my mind that like I want to get out there and get on the indies more. I'm kind of a diva when it comes to indie stuff. I'm really selective with where I go and what I choose. But I definitely want to get out there more because I have a chip on my shoulder now. Like I felt confident that I was proving people wrong, and I was not just like I was earning my spots. And the thing is, I blur the lines a little bit. People don't know when I'm working and when I'm not, and that's good. But like, it's I think I did like 6 or 7 shows before quarantine. So like, really, like it started in March. So like January to March, I got 6 or 7 shows. I main evented every single show I was on. I was in the last segment, last match, every show I was on. People call it arrogance. I call it working hard and knowing and allowing myself to be in those spots and be ready when my number's called upon. Because again, I had a big angle with Kylie Ray that's still going on, and my big thing was it kicked off Freelance this year in January. I had the videos on my Instagram and stuff, but like I came out and attacked her. We demasked. It was a big deal, and I knew I had to deliver. I knew I was cutting a promo, and I knew I had to deliver. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to deliver, and I felt like I did. And then it resonated with people. So then people are like, "Oh shit!" Like people start taking me more seriously because they don't want to take me seriously because of the weird shit, because it's Frank the Clown. Yeah. He doesn't deserve to be here. Blah blah. He's a fan. Everybody's a fan. But like I'm different because I was the fan, if you want to call it. But it was a bummer because the timing hurt me a lot because again I felt like I was really coming into my own. Me and Rob were doing really good stuff. I was doing good stuff on my own. But it's not an excuse. Like I plan on coming out of this. I've already like bought new stuff, gear to be ready. I'm ready for a phone call if some major television company wants to call me. I'm ready. I can get out there tomorrow. So like we'll see, man. Yeah, I really don't know where it's all going to wind up. I'm along for the ride, but again, I'm always like, to me, I'm ready. Like
I honestly love how the negativity works in your favor though as a character. Like all the negativity that you do get like works because if people dislike you, then that's already doing half your job.
Twitter and everything too. Like, you know, I play like again, I blur the lines on Twitter. You don't know if I'm like if this is really Frank or if this is Frank the Clown.
And you're better coming off as a heel, man. When that live stream with Joe Alonzo a week ago, you were the heel and it worked. No matter what he said, you just getting under his skin. I'm like, this is tremendous. Like so I don't seem disrespectful. The reason I was looking at my phone, we're going to wrap this up. And the reason I kept looking at my phone is Joe was going to make a run in, but he's still driving. So he's not going to make a run in. I sent him the link. I'm like, pop in after 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to have you hop on. And we're going to talk about the merch table.
I haven't seen that coming. That's hilarious.
That was the whole plan, but he's still driving. It's not going to happen. But Joe was going to make. He also did say
clout chasing. Also did say,
please tell him to respond to my text about the gear lady, please.
Did he say that?
Yeah, but he was gonna make a run in, but we're way over the.
He wanted to get on there was to put me on the spot about the gear lady because I haven't answered any of his texts.
I was gonna bring up the merch table gate all over again, but he's not making a run in, guys. I apologize. He's still driving.
I'm sure people are just distraught.
But that was how I was gonna cap off the show with the Joe run in, so you guys could just argue for a bit because I find it very.
Here's the thing. Joe doesn't deserve to close the show. He's not a main eventer like
Clearly, you can't even make his bookings, even at the last minute.
Joe. Yeah, literally. Yeah, Joe just goes works in Texas and calls it a day.
Never booking him again. Didn't even show up.
yeah, literally.
But yeah, man. So, I honestly, anyone that isn't like, where can people follow you? How can you find you?
I'm at Frank WWE Clown on Twitter and Instagram. I am trying to get it changed so badly. I want the WWE out of the name. Not as disrespect. I just need to be my own. And unfortunately, all the names I want are taken. So I've been working on it for so long to get this taken care of.
There's no Frank the Clown. There's no Frank the Clown.
Yeah, the Frank the Clown Twitter account has literally tweeted twice in 2010. It hasn't tweeted on one day in 2010. It tweeted twice and never done anything since then. No activity. It's like 2 followers. I have hit Twitter up so many times. I've sent them everything I can do. I can't get it. And I've even pulled strings of people I know, and it's not that easy. And even this Frank the Clown Instagram account is it posted 6 years ago. Again, one day, 2 posts, never again. So it's funny. I reached out to I went. This is 3 days ago. I'm still working on this to this day. I reached out. I went through the Frank the Clowns who was following. I followed 4 people, and I went through that guy's tweets, and I found him on Instagram, and I DM'd him on Instagram, and he's not very active on Instagram. And I'm like, hey, this is who I am. Do you know this guy actually in real life? But I haven't got anything back. So I literally will pay for it. I don't even care what it takes. But I can't get in communication with these people, and they just don't hand out these. They don't deactivate these accounts.
I think about it. And not that my name's very common, but there's a few others. But not with the Wrestling Classic. But my personal Instagram account is it's just my name. It's just Justin Dillon. And I'm how lucky am I to have my name Justin Dillon? I just have it. But there's and now I search my name. There's a Justin Dillon 1, Justin Dillon. I'm oh, of course. I lucked out. I lucked out.
And there's variations I could do with underscores, shit like that, but I just want that smooth, Frank the Clown, whatever it is. So
I completely understand, man. Yeah. And I think you can get it. I think you just gotta push everybody reporting the Twitter page so it gets taken.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
If we get 100 people to report it, maybe they'll just take it down and you can steal the name somehow.
I know. And I own a couple other Twitter accounts, just in case different companies may call. I have them on call, but I want that general one to have. But again, my name's established. I feel my Twitter handle and all that's established by now. It's weird, kind of to start over. But
if you just take out the WWE, I think people would understand, right? Because it's it's self-explanatory for anyone that really thinks about it. So so I get that. So if it was just Frank the Clown, that'd be great. But everyone follow him it's WWE Frank the Clown or Frank
WWE Clown. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, same thing.
Give him a follow, check him out. Thank you once again for doing this. Man. I really appreciate it. We booked it last minute. Hopefully the Clown Servations return for a bit during this quarantine.
We're going to. Yeah, I just same thing. I just haven't gotten around to it. Just weird times, obviously.
A lot of things happened in the past month.
Yeah, I didn't want to detract from any of that. So I had people lined up. So we'll get back at it maybe this week or next week. And it's a good, like you said, it's a good way to get in touch with people, catch up, and just not be bored.
Yeah, I guess people want to. It's crazy. I know I'm dragging this on, but it's crazy. It's actually really, really funny because prior 2020, even back in February, I used to casually go live randomly all the time. AJ would pop in. She'd be like the other person that go live with me. We just shoot the shit. Sometimes we were wrestling. Sometimes we would be about life stuff, relationships and whatnot. And people would just tune in. And don't get me wrong, I'd be pulling numbers 30 to 40 people in there and stuff. It wasn't crazy. If a wrestling event was on, I'd pull the hundreds to 200s because people thought I'd be streaming it for free when that was not the case. But which I did in the past, but I don't have to do that now. But it's so funny because the moment the world shut down, all these celebrities and people that are actually famous and have reputable names started going live. And I'd open Instagram, there'd be a line of people that were live, follow a ton of people, and I'm
6ix9ine, The Rock,
I'm this is wild. I'm Abby, Rosenberg's on there DJing, someone else is doing something. I'm this is you were on a network and you were running that network, and then the next thing you know, the network got bought by a bigger company that signed a bunch of new talent, and everyone's doing it. And I was crap. This is crazy. Yeah, but it's such a good way to connect with fans and stuff like that. And I actually enjoyed the Clown Servations. I watched a ton of them. Once again, one of the most entertaining ones was Joe Alonzo and you fighting.
Yeah, go figure.
And him cutting a promo. Unfortunately, he never made his run in like he was supposed to.
But heartbroken.
Maybe I'll get both of you guys on here because it's fun.
Hey, I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah,
I'll give Joe his moment in the sun.
maybe we'll do like a special. It won't be like an hour-long casual conversation, but I'll sit there as one of the judges or the hosts, and we'll have you guys cut promos on each other, because a promo battle between Frank the Clown and Joe Alonzo is something that people need in their life.
Joe rags on me, like I said, I like to write my promos ahead of time a lot of times, and he like rags on it. I'm like, what do you like? Why are you ragging? There's no purpose ragging on it. Joe has literally cut like I called him out like less than 5 promos in front of a live crowd. I'm like, and he's like, oh, this is live Instagram live. Like, do it in front of a live audience, you idiot, where people are gonna chirp back at you. Like, I literally cut.
You guys can already tell the tension.
Right, I'm getting fired up already. Like, because like I literally cut promos almost every single show I'm on. I feel like I cut more promos than anybody else on the indies. Just because every single show I'm on, I generally cut a promo, where indie shows aren't really filler promos. They're just matches. There's not a lot of stories.
Yeah, and that's your role. You're like a manager. You cut promos.
I love it. I want to, anytime I get the mic, I will do it. Like, I've went against people telling me not to grab the mic, and I'll still grab the mic, because I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? What I'm going to say is going to matter. And I feel like it's going to sell you tickets at some point. So like, just let me do what I can do. But yeah, Joe is always like, I could cut promo. Like, Joe can talk. I know he could talk, but like, I'm like, prove it in front of a live crowd, and I'll give you credit. That's all I'm asking for. So when things get back to normal, do it. Do it.
Maybe we should promote it. We'll make it a YouTube live. We'll have Joe versus Frank. The people can watch it on YouTube. They can comment on it. We'll promote it for like a week on the Wrestling Classic and all our socials. Yep. We'll get people ready for the big promo battle. Because like, you already got fired up. I was not even hearing you got fired up. I just brought the guy's name. And the best part about all of it, guys, is they're genuinely actually really good friends, but they just get under each other's skin.
I trained Joe, and then I met Joe through Rob, and that's like, it's like the weird trio there. But yeah,
but they get under each other's skin. It's kind of like me and Devin on the TWC show. Like, we're like the best of friends, but we disagree about everything that has to do with wrestling. I love Charlotte, he hates Charlotte, and we're going debates. But it's like, it's more entertaining that way.
And like, I always want the best out of my friends, out of Joe, and I think sometimes he misconstrues that with like just me being an asshole.
He's just bad with criticism.
And I'll tell him, like you said that, and like I should have tell him, like, I think, I'll be like, I think you look like garbage. Like, I think this is bad. Like, I'm not saying it to be mad. I would want somebody in my life telling me the same thing and not sugarcoating it, because then I can improve upon it. But he just doesn't take to things well, and he's set in his ways. So at this point, I just learned, like, just let him do his thing, and he's doing okay, and we'll see if it picks up. You're looking down again. You're trying to.
Yeah. Let's see if he's up. He's not. He's still on the boat. Anyways, we're good. We'll wrap it up here. I think this will be a perfect time for him to hop in. But other than that, I really appreciate it. Everybody, you can check this out and all the rest of the episodes. Well, if you've made it this far, you're already checking it out. But for the future reference and for the past episodes, guys, if you search a TWC show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Podbean, Spreaker, all the places you can listen to podcasts, search TWC show. This will be a bonus show with Frank the Clown. I have a bunch of archived bonus shows as well with guys like Shad Gaspard, Darren Young, Joe Alonzo, Mariah May, Amber Nova. There's just a whole bunch of them. And now Frank the Clown's on the list. Emilio Sparks. There's a ton of people I've done bonus shows with, so be sure to go check them out. You can watch all of them on my YouTube channel, The Wrestling Classic. It's easy. Once again, got lucky there too. My YouTube channel's name is The Wrestling Classic.
You're covered. You're good. Yeah.
So you guys can go. Nice. Yeah. So you guys can go subscribe to that and watch all these interviews in video form if you feel like you want to do it that way too. And yeah, man, it was a pleasure. I appreciate it, man. Likewise, anything else you want to add?
No. I appreciate it. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, doing well. When things get back to normal, I want everybody to be in independent wrestling crowds and booing Frank the Clown. So that's all I ask for. But I'll draw it out of you one way or another.
I'm with it. Anyways, yeah, everyone go follow Frank. We'll talk to you all later. Dig it!
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.